Hey guys, I'd hoped to get to this set a lot sooner, but my plans didn't quite work out this week the way I expected. I thought with it being the holidays and work being light, I was going to get a whole lot of projects done this week. Instead, I spent most of my time semi-conscious on the couch because of a horrible cold, but I'm finally feeling better today, so I cleared some space and I pulled out the chassis to the Predicta Tandem set I got recently with the blonde cabinet, and I'm going to try powering it up slowly under controlled circumstances, just like I did with that other tandem set, the mahogany one that I've also been working on. Let's see what else. In the last video on this set I talked about the knobs. Notice I've got a mismatch of some blonde and a brown. Well, I found out that there is a guy that makes reproduction knobs, so I'll order up a set of blonde. But also these knobs, which nobody makes reproductions of and they're very hard to find. I had a mismatch, blonde and brown. Well, I was looking through the knobs from my other tandem set, and it has two blonde knobs. So, at least between the two, I can pull out two blonde, and then when I get the reproduction blonde knobs here, I'll have a full set of correct knobs for this set. I know it's just a minor cosmetic detail, but it's nice to have. Now, as to this set, I reviewed the seller's original listing, and he said that he tried to turn it on and nothing happened. Well, from my experience with the other Predictas, I can think of a few problems. One, power switch is bad. These are notorious for going bad, these push-on, push-off switches. Two, there could simply be a bad tube or a loose tube. All these are wired in series, so if one goes out, they all go out. Three, there's actually an AC safety interlock on these sets. If you don't plug in the head unit with this cable, the set won't turn on. So the filaments not only go through this set, but they also go through that. And in addition to just the filament juice, there's also an extra AC interlock. So two of these pins are actually in line, I believe, with the power switch. Now that interlock on this one has actually been disabled. It's actually part of the back cover. So if you take the back cover off of this, you can't turn the set on. But in this set, I know from when I popped this back cover off a while back, that's been bypassed from when somebody serviced this. However, you still have to have this plug in. So it could simply be a matter of when the seller originally tried to power this up, he didn't have this plugged in, or it wasn't making firm contact. I don't know. And I guess the final possibility would be a bad power cord, but I've got a fresh cheater cord here that I know is good. So I'm going to connect the power, or the tandem cable, as best I can. Remember, the center conductor on this one is broken loose. That's the high voltage lead. But I figure if I put that one in first, and just stick it down in there, and then get this on to the rest of the socket, I can make a pretty good contact. And then I'll hook up an ohmmeter to the AC line and see if I can get continuity going through the whole set. The plug wasn't fitting onto the socket very well, so I investigated a bit, and it seems that the old glue from somebody's repair attempt was kind of fouling things up, so I chipped and scraped away some of the glue, and it's fitting on there better now. I think I'll need to do a more detailed job, more thorough job, maybe use a Dremel tool with some kind of abrasive bit to wear it away and expose all fresh plastic surfaces, and then I can glue it up with some two-part epoxy perhaps. Alright, so I then hooked up all the cheater cord and checked for continuity, and not surprisingly, I did not have continuity. So what I'm going to test now is the power switch. I removed a couple screws here, which lets you get easy access to it. So I'll clip up an ohm meter and see when I flip this power switch, is it actually doing what it's supposed to be doing? Okay, so we have an infinite reading, and if I flip the switch, it is indeed doing what it's supposed to be doing. Alright, So now, where does the fault lie? Well, somewhere between here and the rest of the set. So I'll do the simplest thing first and simply go around and wiggle the tubes, do a visual inspection on the tube sockets as well, since I've got some experience now on what to look for on those pins, see if they're broken. And I can also do a check on each tube. And eventually I will track it down, I hope. I flipped the chassis over and started checking the continuity from the AC plug down through the various components. One side of this goes over to the power switch and it comes back right around, and part of it goes to this guy, which is the thermistor, which is in series with all the tube filaments. This provides a nice slow startup, so you don't, or at least you reduce the chance of burning out a cold filament on startup. I've got my ohm meter right across it. It should be 400 ohms or thereabouts, and it is infinite, it is open. So although this looked really nice, it is completely shot, so I will replace that, and hopefully that will fix things. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to check this guy, which is also very prone to failure. Nice of them to print out the values: 17 ohms, 13 ohms, 8 ohms. So we should get about 17 across here. And we do more or less. I think in parallel with this 17 ohm section is the pilot light, so I'm not surprised it's less than 17 ohms. And here to here we have continuity, that's good. That should be around 13 ohms, more or less, good. And finally this. Alright, cool. So, at least now I know if I replace this, I'll have continuity from the AC interlock through the power switch back around to this point. I replaced that thermistor with one of these new Anatherm guys I got from DigiKey, and we now have about 250 ohms across the AC line, which certainly seems reasonable to me. Turn this set off, goes to infinite, turn it back on, got about 265, which makes sense because these new thermistors are around 200, 220 cold, and then the rest of the resistance will be the tube filaments. So I'm going to proceed. I will hook up an external speaker here. The original speaker is still inside the cabinet. And I will use a variac dim bulb just to be extra precautious, and slowly start to increase the voltage. And I will monitor the B+, which I think I can get pretty easily from one of these diodes up here, with the chassis being ground. Okay, I've got my voltmeter attached to B+, right on the output of the voltage doubler. And I've got my variac hooked up with a 150 watt bulb in series, just for paranoia's sake. So I'll turn on right now. Start turning the variac up. That's a good sign. 8 volts DC. I'm going to increase this maybe in 25 volt increments, and pause for a couple minutes at each increment just to give the caps a chance to reform. I won't bore you guys with that, so I'll pick up recording when hopefully I'm up to around 275 volts or so on this meter. Alright, I've maxed out my variac and no problems so far. Pilot light's on, tube filaments are glowing. Got about 200 volts on the B+. Now it should be closer to 300 under normal operations, but remember, still have that 150 watt bulb in series, which is starving juice from the set. Now best of all, I can hear some signs of life out of the speaker. Ah, even better yet. Hadn't tried that yet. I just heard some static and I didn't realize if I hooked up an antenna, I'm actually receiving a station. You can almost make out what song it is too. Alright, I powered the set down a little earlier, and I checked things underneath, like these caps, and none of the electrolytics are getting warm, meaning either they're open or they've reformed to some extent. In other words, they're not leaky, they're not getting really hot, which is a good thing. So next, I'm going to take that bulb out of the series and do a full power-up test. Still no signs of life out of the CRT, but let's get this up to full voltage first before I worry about the horizontal not working right or the flyback not working. Okay, here we go for a full power-up test. You can see the pilot light's much brighter now, and the B+ is also much higher. Should get a lot more volume out of the speaker. I better turn the sound down. Oh, now that's a weird situation. We have vertical but no horizontal. I bet that means there's bad contact in the tube socket, or the CRT socket. Oh, yeah, I know I'm going to have to do some work on that CRT socket. Alright, it's very encouraging. It's brightness control, contrast. Alright, I'm going to hook up a better signal source. Let's see what this set can do. Alright, I've got my cable TV hooked up to this set. So, let's see what happens. It's still the channel 6 over the air. Let's go to channel. Huh. Okay, we got sound, pretty good sound, but not video. Still, that's a fantastic first power up, considering I haven't done anything to this set except replace one thermistor. So, it could be a problem in the video amp or bad connection on the cable. I was about to say the IF, but they use intercarrier, so both the sound and the video go through the same IF stages. So since we have sound, I don't think that's a problem. That's the video output tube, so the suspect. Just wiggling it. We're not going to have a bad socket connection. And I can try doing this connector. Ah, it is a bad connection on the connector. Damn it. I'm definitely going to have to work on that connector and clean the pins and get that glue residue out of there. And, alright, I'm going to see what I can do to get a better connection on this. Looks like right now if I had 3 hands and could adjust the horizontal hold, I can get a stable picture. Let's see. This has got to be horizontal down here. Oh, made it worse. Almost. There we go. Haha. Alright. How about that? Well, I was saying when I first popped this set open, the looks aren't everything. Meaning that just because it looks nice doesn't mean it actually works well. But in this case, it does seem to hold true. Obviously it needs some tweaking, and I still will do a recap. But that's pretty awesome. It's working so well on all of the original components. Alright, things are looking better. I found a sweet spot on the connector so I don't have to keep applying pressure to it, and I've got a stable picture. I also tweaked the vertical height and linearity, so people are in proportion now. So, still that vertical line there. Yeah, it's probably something to do with the horizontal drive, and there's some static throughout. That's probably a bad connection somewhere in the tuner or in the antenna. And I'm sure the whole set would work a lot better with full recap and maybe some tube replacement. But hey, for a first power-up, this is fantastic. It's nice to see one of these sets playing so well. Now, something else I want to do. You see, this is the head unit that came with the mahogany tandem set I'm working on. And I mentioned the other night when I first opened up this blonde set that I actually have a third head. That one I've never tried powering it up. I do know it's still got the original picture tube in it, and it tests with very weak emissions. But, you know, sometimes you can squeeze a little bit of life out of these tubes that are on their last legs, so I'm going to hook that one up and see what kind of picture we can get out of it. I just finished hooking up that head unit I was referring to a moment ago. As I was saying, it's in really good condition. A few splotches here and there that I imagine will clean right off. Safety plastic's in really good condition. It's got the original finish on the base. It's in pretty good shape too. But it does have the original picture tube, which is notorious for having a short life. I guess the problem was that because they have a really stubby neck, the electron gun, the cathode surface is very small, so they tended to burn out prematurely, and there's not much hope for rejuvenation because there's just not much cathode surface to rejuvenate. However, I did zap it with my Sencor CR70, which did seem to improve emissions a bit. I've never tried using it before though, so let's see what it can do. Hoping I can squeeze a little bit of life out of it. So yeah, it is working. Got kind of a weird effect though. The focus is off a bit. But it's not bad, considering how poorly it's tested. Now I do have a new old stock picture tube that I was planning on using in this set, and I probably will someday, but that's got a longer neck, and I'm going to have to leave this cover off or build an extender on it because it's going to stick out about this much further. So I'd rather hold off on doing that until I absolutely have to. Hopefully with tweaking a few of the settings I can get an even sharper picture on this set. Well, it's getting late, so that's going to be it for tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed this first power-up of my blonde tandem set. And I gotta say, as a first power-up goes, this was really, really successful, and I'm quite surprised that it's working this well.